Good evening. Let's call this meeting of the County Board to order. It's Thursday, August 18th, 2011. The time is 7 p.m. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Jace, Jones, Jay,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Kurtz,
Here.
Langenheim, here. McGinty,
Here.
Michaels, here. Mosher,
Here.
Nudo,
Here.
O'Connor, Petrie, here. Quisenberry,
Here.
Richards,
Here.
Rosales, Schrader,
Here.
Alex,
Here.
Emmons, here. Anderson, here. Benzel,
Here.
Bergson,
Here.
Betts,
Here.
Carter,
Here.
Cowart, Esri,
Here.
Holderfield, James,
Here.
Weibel.
Good. We have a quorum. Tonight's prayer is a prayer for students. Because you didn't notice they're back in town. Lord, help me to be patient with teachers and my peers. Help me to be kind and helpful to others. Help me to be productive, to do my work instead of slacking. Help me to stay calm in times of great hardship and stress. Help me to manage money wisely and to find a way to earn more. Help me to refrain from jealousy and envy towards my friends who are better off than me. Almighty One, give me strength to be the student I am capable of being. Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please read the notice of the meeting?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on August 18th, 2011, 7 p.m. in the Loud Shields Meeting Room, Perkins Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Move approval. Moved by Mr. Betts, second by Mr. Carter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Seek approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. James.
Second.
Second by Mr. Richards. Discussion on the agenda. Also, I want to point out one correction on the consent agenda. Item C1. It says increase appropriations to $18,000. That should be $27,962. That's the way it was after the whole meeting, so it's a typo in this agenda. Ms. Blakeson.
I believe that we wanted to take from the consent.
Actually, we're just approving the agenda. It's not the time to take things off the consent agenda. Okay, did we vote on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The date and time of our next regular meetings are for Committee of the Whole for Highway Transportation Facilities, Environmental Land Use is Tuesday, September 6th at 6 p.m. in this room. For Finance, Policy, Personnel, and Appointments, Justice and Social Services on Tuesday, September 13th at 6 p.m. in this room. The next regular county board meeting is on September 22nd, Thursday at 7 p.m. in this room. Ms. Hammonds, would you please move adoption of resolution number 7836?
Policy moves the adoption of resolution number 7836, a resolution appointing Gary Maxwell as a county board member in District 1 to fill Lawrence Sapp's unexpired term ending November 30th, 2012.
Second. Second by Mr. Betts. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Mr. County Clerk?
Mr. Maxwell?
Certainly can bring your wife up too.
do it in front of the projector. Once you stand over here so that you can be on camera. Okay. All right. Repeat after me, please. Raise your right hand. I, Gary Maxwell,
I, Gary Maxwell,
having been appointed to the office of
having been appointed to the office of
County Board Member in District Number 1
County Board Member in District Number 1
in the state of Illinois in the County of Champaign aforesaid,
in the state of Illinois in the county of Champaign aforesaid,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of County Board Member
of the office of County Board Member
in District Number 1 to the best of my ability.
in District Number 1 to the best of my ability. Gary? Well, thank you.
Okay, consent agenda. Any items which you wish to take off the agenda, Ms. Petrie?
Yes, I would like to pull item D10 off the consent agenda, please.
D10 on page 2. Okay, D10.
Thank you.
Okay. Any others? Okay.
Move consent.
Thank you, Mr. McGinty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. James. Roll call.
Jay,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yeah.
Langenheim,
Yes.
Maxwell,
Yes.
McGinty,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Mosher,
Yes.
Nudo,
Yes.
Petrie,
Yes.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Richards,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Benzel,
Yes.
Bergson,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Coert,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Holderfield,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Weibel.
Yes. Motion carries. Also remind you, please turn off your cell phones.
Thank you.
Make Mr. James happy. Thank you. Next is public participation. Mr. John Halston?
Thank you, council members. I think I might have missed a vote because I think you just voted on many of the drainage district commissioners. Is that correct? No. Yes? Yes. Except for one. Well, the one I was particularly interested in was the one for the Fountainhead Drainage District. I feel that the citizens of that drainage district are not being properly represented at this time. The history with the Fountainhead is it was mostly rural when it was formed, but now it is mostly surrounded by city. And the present makeup, respectfully, of the Fountainhead Drainage District is primarily farmers. The city dwellers are not being properly represented, and that is my concern. Now, if it's a done thing for this year, I want you to keep that in mind for next year. It's not. That if it's still up for a vote, I respectfully wish you to decline the nomination of the individual for the Fountainhead Drainage District at this time. There's been a new submittal, and it is me, so you have a name to go with the face. At the minimum, delay it till next month, till you have a little more time to study my application, if you don't already have a copy. Thank you.
Mr. Paul Oremus? Sure, you can correct me on that. Your last name?
Orama.
Pardon?
Orama?
Orama.
Yes. Good evening, council members. My name is Paul Orama. I'm the Public Policy Manager for the Champaign County Chamber of Commerce. I'm just here in support of the resolution for high-speed rail. Well, the Chamber, along with numerous other entities in our county, is part of a coalition called the Champaign County First. Over 2 years ago, Champaign County identified true high-speed rail as a long-term vision for the community. True high-speed rail has the potential to turn Illinois' economy around. We support the resolution that's been presented to the county board because it calls for the creation of a pathway to make high-speed rail a reality for Champaign County. The resolution does not call for the project to be government funded. We support a high-speed rail project that is a private-public partnership in which private companies have the ability to make financial investments and operate the line. There's nothing in this resolution that contradicts that message. We encourage County Board to pass this resolution to demonstrate a unified front to the state and federal government that our community embraces new technology and infrastructure, and to show that we recognize the positive impact that high-speed rail would have on our community and our economy. Thank you.
Mr. James Craig. Not going to do it? Robert Michael Doyle.
This coming Saturday, August 20th, there will be the second annual Champaign-Urbana Pride Festival at Lincoln Square in downtown Urbana. The event will begin at 4 p.m. with a reading of a proclamation by Mayor Laurel Pressing for Urbana and Councilmember Marcy Dodds for Champaign, declaring that day Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Day in the two cities. Then from 4 to 9, it will be family friendly. There will be free activities for children. There will be 2 stages with live entertainment. There will be a raffle. This whole event is free admission, although donations will be accepted for the support of the Uniting Pride Center, which is located in the old Urbana Post Office building. There will be an after party for persons 19 and older from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. at the same location. I hope that you will attend. You might actually meet some LGBT people and their family or their friends from your very own districts, rural as well as urban. The second item that I want to mention is I would respectfully request the county board to change its rules so that your chair can issue proclamations for the entire county in her or his name. At the present time, the only way to get a proclamation is going to the entire board, which takes up your time with something that is actually ceremonial and has no legal effect in the sense of making anyone do anything. But people who live in unincorporated areas of the county might want ceremonial kinds of things like that, but they don't have village presidents or city mayors to go to like the people who live in the incorporated areas. I know Champaign issues quite a few different proclamations for different things. I don't know if you remember, but there was one woman here who, on the night that you adopted the Celebrate and Respect Civil Unions proclamation, who said, why don't you have a proclamation for traditional marriage? She later went to the county clerk's office to learn how to get a proclamation because I told her she could get one just like I did for whatever she wanted. And she found that it was just too arduous of an undertaking, it would take too much of her time. I think I would have, if the proclamation itself had not been an attack on anybody else's arrangements, I would have clearly supported her traditional marriage, a proclamation by this board. But of course she doesn't have the time to follow through on that, and I don't think that's unfair. And Finally, I want to mention that October is Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender History Month, and I hope that the county government will participate in that celebration in some way, partly because a number of very early and significant events occurred in this county. Thank you for your time.
Is there further public participation? Seeing none, we'll close that. Let's go to communications. I have one here that concerns this 911 National Moment of Remembrance. I got on your desk here. We received this yesterday morning. It's a message from the U.S. Senate, which they passed a resolution asking all Americans to participate in the moment of silence or moment of remembrance on September 11, 2011. They want to have all first responders, household worship, towns, etc., to sound sirens and bells for 1 minute at noon, I believe. I wanted to, it would be nice to have this on the agenda, but we could not do that because of the Open Meetings Act. So what I'd like to do is put it on the policy, have a special policy item at the first committee of the whole meeting next month. So if this has at that level, we send it to them, and they'll be able to coordinate with our local responders to do this. Then we, at the regular county board meeting, we just go through the normal action there. So if there's any objection to that, I'd like to participate in this manner. Is there any objection? See, not very good. Okay, other communications. Mr. Kurtz.
Yes, thank you. I will be traveling tomorrow with a group of city and county elected officials to Clinton landfill. We will be protesting the placing of a PCB landfill directly above the Muhammad Aquifer, our only clean drinking water. This has been a couple of years now, and we're now making a concerted effort through elected officials and hopefully the public to prevent this from taking place. I will bring back a report on it for the next committee as well. Thank you.
Other announcements? Oh, there's Lucy.
Just wanted to point out that the budget review documents for your budget review meetings the week of September, well, on September 30th, 31st, August 30th, 31st, and September 1st are at your desk tonight. Please be sure you have the accurate documents. If you don't, please let me know. And then please bring these documents with you when you come to your budget review meetings. Thanks.
Ms. Petrie.
Thank you. Just an information question to Ms. Busey. Previously, you informed us that the documents and an audio recording of the various meetings would be available for county board members to review, to educate ourselves about the aspects we weren't directly involved in. Do you have any sense of when those would be available?
The documents are available. You can request them, the ones that you want, at any time. Obviously, the audio recordings won't be available until September 2nd at the earliest, since the meetings haven't occurred today.
Other communications? Seeing none, let's move on to approval of the minutes for July 21st, 2011. Moved by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Esri, Mr. Esri. Discussion of the minutes. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a nursing home quarterly report. I believe Mr. Scavano is going to actually present the report, and Mary Ellen O'Shaughnessy will be here to answer questions. Or to not answer questions.
Can you hear me okay? Thanks. Great to be back. Thanks for having us. You've seen this slide before. For those of you who might be new, these are the primary types of residents that we serve at the nursing home. What's not present here is a classification called private pay, which speaks for itself, insurance, or those people who are paying individually. The largest percentage of people that we serve are the Medicaid folks, followed by private pay, and then followed by Medicare. Medicare B is a service that's provided while they're in the nursing home. It's not a classification of a particular insurance company. It's the way that certain therapy services are paid for. I'm going to cover, technically this goes through the second quarter, which is May. We've got information for June, and I included it in this report. This is a very different year than what we had last year. So what's important about this slide is that you see last year we were at 185 in average daily census. When we're talking about ADC, that's what we mean, average daily census. 185, and then at the second quarter last year, we improved to 198. Last year we closed at our goal of 195. This year you'll notice these numbers are the reverse. 198, we hit 198 in the first quarter, and we were about 187 at the close of the second quarter. July, you'll see where we were, 187. We've been off our pace for quite a while now, and the census is quite a bit lower, and we would attribute that to varying volumes at the local hospitals. As you see in a little bit, we're very concerned about our Medicare position. The payer mix is pretty good, actually. You can see that the private pay mix has stabilized, which is great. Medicaid has come up a little bit, 50% last year, 52% at June 30th. In July, it was up 3%. We were hoping to get this number up, 12% Medicare last year, 10% this year, 7% last month. That's a very low volume for us. In the aggregate, we're not off by much, but we are seeing a census decline. And the biggest is that year over year, Medicare is down 20%. And if you can get the drift of where I'm going, we're going to feel that. We closed the first quarter, year over year, up $335,000 in revenues. But you can see in the second quarter, we dropped some, about $65,000. In June alone, we dropped $50,000. And this is $65,000 over 3 months. This is $50,000 in 1 month. And July's revenues were 1.1. So we're down another $40,000 in July. Where are we as overall position? Take a look at when we first started working, Medicare was a significant percentage of our revenue. It came down the second year, and it's down the third year. This is a good position to be in, and I want to emphasize that we're continuing to accept all Medicaid patients that come to us if we can care for them. If they're psychiatric cases and we can't handle their needs, we obviously don't take them, and we don't take those individuals regardless of payer status. Medicare speaks for itself. We had a low volume when we first started. We brought it up in the second year, and you can see the trend line is positive, but we're not having the revenues in Medicare this year that we had last year. What I'm trying to get across in this slide is that private pay is stabilized. The green line shows wide fluctuations that we saw last year. This year, private pays varied a little bit, but it's stable, and we're not seeing the wide fluctuations, and it's averaging out to be the same, 38%. So where does that leave us as far as revenue goes? Any healthcare operation, volume is everything, and high break-even points are very characteristic of every healthcare facility I've ever worked with. When our volume dives, we try to adjust our expenses, but it's not a one-for-one adjustment. So we're very dependent upon volume. Certain types of volume bring us more revenue than others. And Medicare is obviously a major factor.
You've heard me talk in previous reports about the intergovernmental agreement. That is critical to our success. It gives us a higher Medicaid reimbursement. The status on that program is that it looks very favorable. The counties have signed the agreements. I'm not aware of any county that hasn't signed the agreement. I talked with HFS on Tuesday. HFS is Healthcare and Family Services, the agency in Illinois that's responsible for public aid. They expect the deal to go forward. The federal folks have gotten back to them. It is getting a lot of scrutiny. That is, from what I understand, standard practice in Washington these days. The deals are still getting done. We are looking for closure on this in September. And depending on when it gets closed, we might see some checks. So if it gets closed in early September, we might see a check by the end of September, if not sometime in October. It's now, like anything like this, I can tell you what I know, but let's not cash the check until we've got it in our fist, and because we haven't seen anything yet. But right now, it looks very favorable. I would amend the next bullet for payment delays being possible. Payment delays are with us, and the state is now delaying Medicaid payments to all providers. This is not Champaign County, this is statewide, this is every healthcare provider that I know of, and getting paid by Medicaid is going to be difficult. It is a challenge. Obviously, you've gotten the drift from my remarks that Medicare is down significantly from last year. We know that referrals don't necessarily go in alphabetical order. We did well with referrals last year. We're not getting the referrals that we want this year. Some of that is dependent upon hospital volume. Right now, volume's up. We're doing a little bit better. On balance for the year, we're down. There's no question about that. That is a fact. Our Medicare per diem has been running consistently at $500 or over. That's been a significant improvement in our performance over when we first started. However, you'll notice in the next bullet that effective October 1st of this year, those rates are going to get cut over 11%. Now, part of it's the rate. To measure the revenue impact, part of it's the rate, and part of it's where the volume is in the particular classification that therapy is being delivered in. The impact on Champaign County Nursing Home is going to be 13% drop in Medicare revenue. That is a significant blow to the rehab service. There is not anything that's going to happen with this. It's been a cut. It's been a national cut. It's affecting everybody. There are certain things that we can do internally to adjust with work processes. We're doing those. It's going to take time to recover from this. And again, this is not personal. This has got nothing to do with Champaign County. This is the feds making a change in the way that therapy is paid for in skilled nursing facilities. The important thing about expenses for me is that you look at the trend line. The trend line's been locked in pretty solid. We have some fluctuations in expense, but not many. And so I'm real happy with what we've been doing over the course of this fiscal year, and I think I'd be able to give you a better performance report if the revenue was better. But I hope that people don't immediately gravitate to expense and say your expenses are way out of line. Your expenses are in line, and we have opportunities to reduce expense. We'll take them, but our primary problem is revenue. You heard a lot of talk over the last couple of years about the level of cost that we've incurred with outside agencies. We're still dependent upon the agencies. Again, the trend line here is significant. We are seeing major reductions in the use of outside agencies. That's good, not only in the sense of it keeps our first dollar cost down, Secondly, we've got our own people pulling more shifts, and we don't have to orient strangers to take care of our residents. We're using our own people, and their familiarity is much better than an outsider. Unscheduled absences are also headed down in the right direction. This has been a major effort over the last 3 years, and despite some of the bumps here, the trends are positive, and this will continue to be bumpy. But if we can keep the trend line heading south, we're in good shape. One of the things that we want to point out is that nurse supervision continues to get a lot of effort. No matter where we are with nurse supervision, we can't be doing enough. It is our biggest department, it's our most significant department, and it will continue to get the effort that it needs for supervision. You notice that the vacancy rates are quite a bit different this year versus last year. Our productivity is up. We are, as expected, we are seeing higher food costs, higher energy costs, higher benefit costs, and higher professional fees, particularly with therapy, what little left we have. You've seen this slide before. One of the things that I would point out is we're going to dodge this bullet. You're carrying a pretty good sized liability on your balance sheet where we owe several $100,000 to the state. There's several different transactions that have gone into this, but the upshot of it is that you will receive from the state in settlement of that transaction an extra $188,000 as part of this intergovernmental agreement once it gets paid. So that's a real plus. So it'd be nice to have an extra 188 coming in to the bank account. That said, cash flow is still thin, or it's anorexic at this point, and that's Mary Ellen's contribution to the presentation, and she's right. Any improvement in our cash is going to be dependent upon how quickly we can get checks in from the intergovernmental agreement. Again, that's looking positive, and I'm obviously hoping for September, early October. Sometimes I feel like Murphy, and it's like Murphy's Law, if it can go wrong, it will. This deal has been out there for years. It's been out there since October 1st of 2009, and it's about time that it's coming to fruition. Obviously, we're threatened by the Medicaid cuts, and it's going to take quite a bit of internal work to make up for that revenue. My estimate is that we're not going to close this year at 195. At this point, if we hit 190, I'd be pleased. We need to look at new revenue sources, and renal dialysis is one that we're looking at. The customer service in the organization is getting better. It's been frustrating at times. We build our customer service up to a certain level. It comes back down when we measure it, and then we need to get it back up again. But on balance, it's starting to trend up. We've had a good year with IDPH, Illinois Department of Public Health. We've had regulatory peace, as I say on the slide here. We're very pleased about that. You don't have regulatory peace if you don't have people in the organization working hard. And they're working hard at basic stuff. You know, if we have a resident out for a walk around the facility, where is she going? When should she be back? Let's go check on her. Let's go with her. Let's watch our falls. Those types of things are being drilled into the people constantly. And it's a matter of being very, very diligent and vigilant in taking care of our residents. Productivity in terms of systems and people continue to get a lot of effort. It's never going to be where we want it. But as you can see in our use of agency staff, in our drop in unscheduled absences, we've made a lot of gains. These are the objectives that we've got for 2011. Obviously, maintaining a positive cash flow from operations is something that we're very concerned about, particularly with the slowdown in Medicaid reimbursement. We do continue to pay fully loaded expenses on a routine basis. Until we can get a positive cash flow, we are not going to make any progress on outstanding accounts payable obligations. Last year, we did bring it down several $100,000. It's back up a little bit this year. The same thing is true for establishing cash reserves for operating contingencies. Medicaid holds back $300,000 or $400,000 at a pop. That's coming out of our pocket. We don't make it back up unless Medicaid wants to pay us twice, and that's not going to happen. So that's money, that's working capital that we're advancing, and that hurts our anorexic cash position. One thing that we can do while this is going on is keep our human resources development and training going, and we do that, and we continue to emphasize regulatory compliance because we've seen the last couple of years how difficult it can be to recover from those events. Here's a position where we stand through June, and if you were asking me, you know, would we close the year in a profitable position? I would say that we still have a good chance of doing it if the intergovernmental agreement gets resolved with the federal government and the checks start to come. That will allow us to post some additional revenue, and but the main thing that we have to be aware of, and this is a timing difference, but you know, cash flow from operations, that's not much for an operation the size of Champaign County Nursing Home. I mean, and we are living hand to mouth, and we don't have the ability to put any money away. As cash dries up, so does your flexibility. So, and you can see we've got receivables that are not enough to cover our payables, and we've been doing good so far. When our census drops, when our reimbursement gets cut off or delayed, we're going to have to scramble, and we're okay with that. Obviously, census is critical. We talked about resolving the intergovernmental agreement. You've been updated about Medicare reimbursement cuts, and you've been told that so far, so good, we've been able to avoid extraordinary events from the Illinois Department of Public Health. And that is my report, I think. Yep, that's my report, and I am open for questions.
Questions? Mr. Curtis.
I'd like you to expand a little bit more on the new revenues. I know at the nursing home board meeting today at the nursing home, a suggestion came up about converting some of the empty rooms into private rooms where we have private pay, which would increase our revenues. Are there other ideas that we can?
Well, the other, yes, as I've forgotten the number. I think it was like 21 or 22 rooms that we can convert, and we'll do that. We'll do that as soon as we have the wherewithal to pop for the cash and make it work. The other service that we're talking about is getting after renal dialysis. And I know the last time I was here, we were still working on, we were still looking at that. We've gotten a couple of proposals for it. We've been working through the business aspects, not the least of which is what's the demand for the service. If you're familiar with renal dialysis in nursing homes, not many nursing homes provide it. The resident has to go out to a center. It's basically the whole day. And so if we were able to provide this at Champaign County, it's a census builder for us, it's a revenue builder for us, but it's a big need out there. And it makes the lives of these residents a whole lot easier, because they're sick, and riding around in a bus or a van and then getting hooked up to the machines, then coming back, I mean, it's a pain in the ear, and I think they deserve a better day. So there's no point doing it if we can't make it work. So I'm optimistic about it at this point.
Mr. James.
You were saying that your county and then
agreement to come through either September or October, where you're expecting this cash. I'm sure you're looking at options if that doesn't come through.
I am.
Because the way it sounds to me, and looking at the numbers up there, we're going to be in a very, very tight spot, correct?
You're correct, but I would point out to you, not that this is a great answer to your question, I know that, but you've got a lot of company. This is a statewide issue, and this is how this is going to get financed is affecting all healthcare providers.
And I realize that, I think a lot of people are in the same boat, but I guess we have to look at what are we going to do to make
That's
sure
true.
that our nursing homes
That's
are open.
that's true.
You know, we can't take everybody else's concerns on our table, but I'm hoping, from what Alice said, I guess you're looking at it, but that's a scary proposition when you see what we've got coming in and what's got to be paid out.
That's true. That's true. And all of the accounts that we have open are getting reviewed, and they are. If there's any hang up at all in the billing, we're digging into it, and we are waking efforts today and tomorrow and the next day have to be about getting as much cash as we can in the door.
Spaghetti?
Mike, a great report again, and Mary Ellen, thank you. Much better, different report still to this day than what we used to have, and the experienced board members know that. 2 questions. I understand about expense control that we've got going on. I understand the payer mix being stable. Medicare sounds like it's out of our control. So the 2 things that I sort of zero in on that could make a difference for us, Stan hit on one of them, the IGA, and the concern over the timing of that, because things are so thin. That operational results slide is frightening part of it.
Yep.
Any best guess on schedule? You talk about September, October for first installment. Any ideas on what that might look like moving forward?
You know, we're going to try to confirm this tomorrow with HFS. But I was here when the meeting was when the county meeting was held in Springfield with HFS, and Andrew went, and some of my staff from St. Louis went, and I didn't go. But what they heard was that all retro payments would be in a lump sum. If that happens, it makes our job quite a bit easier. So we need to confirm that.
Seems kind of surprising based on
It does. It does. And in subsequent discussions with HFS, they have not been forthcoming on whether it's going to be a lump sum. So it's whether, what's the truth? So we're trying to figure that out. So if it's a lump sum, I think we've got a much better shot. But it's still a tough situation.
The other question is about volumes. With the volumes coming down, I know that volumes in the hospitals have been coming down as well. There's a direct correlation. What about we talked about this quite a while ago, and that is our relationship with the hospitals so that we can get our fair share from the other facilities like ours.
Yes.
What is that looking like from an operations standpoint? Who's in there digging those opportunities out to bring them to Champaign County Nursing Home? That seems to me to be the key to our ability to make that number grow at all these days.
That is correct. When I was here last week, and I met with one of the hospital CEOs and had a very good initial meeting. And we agreed that we would exchange some information and follow up. The volume situation may sound very negative for this fiscal year. And as a matter of fact, it is. But the changes that the hospitals are facing, all of them, Provena and Carl, and this is, again, nationwide, are extraordinary. There's a huge focus on unnecessary hospitalizations. And I think you heard us talk about this at the nursing home meeting today. and I want to bring it back around to new services, which is what you mentioned earlier. For whatever reason, I mean, no matter where you are on this, politically, that doesn't matter. The hospitals will be penalized reimbursement-wise for continuing to treat chronically ill patients in an acute care setting. And the hospitals need more skill in dealing with chronic disease. We need more skill in handling stepped-up acuity levels in such diseases like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, congestive heart failure, strokes. We can do that. It takes time, it takes training. It's entirely possible that we are looking at a volume buster here. And as the hospital empties out patients that can be taken care of in a less acute setting, it is a volume plus for us strategically. We are gearing up to move in that direction. That's a long-winded answer to your question.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mike, don't we, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a new person who's now coordinating, working with the hospitals, and,
right.
That position had been in flux, but this is someone who's already setting up relationships with the hospitals, and that's really, really, really important. And there's been a little, I think historically we've had a few problems there, but
it's been a tough
person,
position.
yeah, this person seems to already be out there working relationships.
Today we're at 187, and our new admissions marketing coordinators got 6 on the way in. So if nobody expires, which they do all the time in a nursing home, do the math, we could be at 193, but if we get 190 and take it. You know, so that's positive.
Ms. Holyfield.
That was my question pretty much on the referral side and your community outreach. I would like to know what exactly that you're doing for community outreach, and you stated that your referrals were way down. Why do you think your referrals have been down, and are they personal referrals or are they referrals from other communities or hospitals? Where are you at in your referrals?
In particular, I mean, the bulk of our referrals come from Carl. We got some from Provena. We'd like to see more from Provena. We're not seeing as many from Carl as we saw last year. If you look at our comparative statistics for Medicaid, they're up. If you look at our comparative statistics for private pay, they're about the same. The big difference has been a shift in referrals from Carl on Medicare. So, and I want to get to your question again. There is a routine that the marketing people follow. They ply the halls at both hospitals. They work with the home care and the hospice agencies. They are actively out there plowing the road and trying to get patients to come to Champaign County. And that's something that we're going to continue to do.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yeah, thank you for your report. I have a few questions here. With the private pay, you mentioned the fluctuations are down. It's more stable. What causes that to be the case? Does that mean patients are staying with us longer, or?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, the length of stay could be longer. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question.
I'd be interested in
that. Yeah, I just don't know the answer.
And then one of the items you had was reconfiguring the rehab services. Is that specifically a reaction to the Medicare changes to get cost efficiency there, or is there more to that?
There's more to it, but I've known for some time that I mean, I guess if you work in healthcare, you know this is one of those things that you pay attention to. The feds are going after unnecessary admissions, and we've started to look at our statistics, and I'm not going to land on this one yet, but I think our average daily census could go up about 2 days if we were managing our hospitalizations better. There's a number of causes for this. Our census could go up again if we were to get more chronic diseases from the hospital. So knowing that was a strategic issue, we started to develop protocols for CHF and COPD, and we have. Now one thing that we have going for us that I'm not aware that anyone else in this market has is we've got a therapy company that's got the protocol developed for the rehab aspect of CHF and COPD. So we were on this well before the Medicare rate cut, but I have to admit that the Medicare rate cut does make your heart rate go up, and you tend to run a little bit faster on that one. That's a big deal.
Okay, and then my last question is, I may be missing something here, but the intergovernmental agreement seems to be about a one-time correction, right? So
No.
It's an ongoing correction?
It's an ongoing.
So
Well, there's just, you're right, and about it being a one-time correction, it goes back to October 1 of '09 and brings us current. That's the retro, and then it goes forward from there.
So when you talk about, that getting resolved and us getting an infusion of capital from that, and that making this year look better, you're talking about a change that's going to be ongoing, looking better.
It's good,
or just
yes,
this year?
yes, it will be ongoing, but we got to get paid. It's one thing to say that, hey, we're looking great, but we got to get the cash in fist, and that's the only thing that matters. And so I'm still very concerned about that.
All right, thank you. Ms. Michaels?
Kind of on the same line of what Mr. Quisenberry was talking about there, I thought you said like 188,000, that's the back pay. What will it be if they pay that? What's the ongoing amount?
Well, let me take you through it. There's a lot that we don't know yet, and based on what we do know, the retro settlement. This is Part A. There's going to be a Part A and a Part B. We're going to talk about Part A first. The retro settlement will be a combination of the 2008 Medicaid cost report and the 2009. There's two figures. We don't know which figure they're going to use. Hopefully the state is going to use whatever figure brings in the most money. We have figured in the lower. So that dollar value is going to be anywhere from $1.6 to $1.8 million.
And when is that supposed to?
Well,
is that part of this 100? I'm getting lost with this 180.
Well, it's easy to get lost. So just stay with me. So if it's a lump sum, it looks like it's $1.6 to $1.8 million for Part A.
Period.
It could be
like a single payment.
It could be a single payment. Yeah, Patsy, you're shaking your head, and I don't blame you. So now Part B is the $188,000. That's in addition.
And you said there was something that was ongoing. What is that dollar amount we're looking at?
Well, the effect of the intergovernmental agreement is to give us increased reimbursement in Medicaid on our daily rate. So we'll probably get, I'm forgetting my math, but I think it's another $22 a day in our Medicaid rate. That's the ongoing.
And how much is that a month?
Oh, let's see.
Per person. I mean, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at a $2 million payables that have been there for a long time. I'm looking at a couple months ago when you said we've got a great positive cash flow. I understand things happen in the interim, but it seems like it's a lot more serious than just being some things that, we're not going to be able to weather out this storm, because it seemed like everything was going on track, and now all of a sudden the bottom fell out.
Well, the first quarter was good, and the bottom did fall out after the first quarter. There's no question about that. Your payables have always been high. They've gone up a little bit since, I think we're running about 1.8, and now they're up to about 2.0 million. So they've always been high, and they've never been covered by your accounts receivable. So the aspects of the intergovernmental agreement are not easy to understand. It's a complicated transaction, but there's two aspects of it. If we get, actually there's three aspects of it in your question. On the one hand, we get a retro settlement somewhere between $1.6 and $1.8 million in round numbers. Secondly, we extinguish a liability on the balance sheet and we pick up another $188,000. Thirdly, we see an increase in our Medicaid rate going forward.
I just wanted to ask on the slide that showed Medicaid enrollment, I don't think the term is, but for the lack of a term, the enrollment of Medicaid patients flowing down.
As a percentage of the total, as a percentage of the total revenue, we are less dependent upon Medicaid than we were 3 years ago.
That's my question. So my question is, have we let that go down because of the state of payment in the Medicaid system?
No,
So that has
no.
gone down because of,
We've picked up more private pay, and we also picked up more Medicare, and we're seeing Medicare decline this year and Medicaid increase.
so your, the persons that you're serving changes based on the Medicaid being reduced in percentage?
I'm not so sure, no. I mean, you've got enough beds, you've got 243 beds. Today, we have an average daily census of 187. We can take anybody.
So I don't understand why Medicaid would be going down if we have 200 plus beds to
Well, we're not actively out there discouraging anybody from coming.
That doesn't answer my question. But I understand what you just said. It is a percentage, and it's showing that that percentage is going down.
That percentage has gone down over the years.
Over the years, it has gone down. And my question is, why are they going down when we have the beds to fill them, and we have people who have Medicaid that will be able to go into those?
Now I get your question. Census levels in skilled nursing facilities are going down generally. People are going to other types of facilities. Supportive living is a case in point, right? So it's not it's a consequence of there being other opportunities available. And that also affects the private pay group, right? And they tend to go to assisted living before they get to a skilled nursing facility.
Mr. Newdall.
Yeah, I think when Carol and I came on board, it was about the same time, and I vividly recall the census was in the 140s. And
when we started, it was 148.
Yeah, I vividly recall that. So the percentage of Medicaid was 60% at that time, but on a basis of 140, let's say 147. Now we have built up the total census to the 180s, and the percentage of Medicaid has dropped, but there's still more Medicaid patients in there than there were with the 140 basis. And, you know, I've said this 100 times, the reason why we went from a $1.8 million loss to break even or slight loss this year perhaps, is that it's just like a hospital. The people coming in the front door in Medicare and private pay for the people coming in the side door in a hospital in the emergency room that can't pay. So when we increase the mix of having private pay and Medicare, which is a profitable bed, and that pays for the Medicaid where we lose on every bed. So it does look a little strange, but we still have 50 more beds to fill, and we are not turning away any Medicaid patients. We will not turn away any Medicaid patients.
July, we had 102 on the average Medicaid patients.
Right. I had a question as a follow-up, though, that I didn't ask yesterday, today. You know, the agency nursing rates are down in dollars, but typically about this time or a little bit afterwards, we get the 1,000-hour people who run out. And do you see a spike in nursing agency costs coming that will exacerbate the problem?
It's possible, and it should. It's a 6-month thing. We're in the 7th month, so yeah, it's possible. It's possible. If we don't see it soon, we probably won't see it, but it's possible. One of the things that that causes me to hedge on my answer is that we did negotiate a new agency contracting arrangement, and we've got much better control over our agency staffing scheduling. So it's a good question, Alan. I don't know the answer.
Ms. Anderson?
Alan explained one thing I was going to say, and I think I heard Diane say that she's sitting on cash flow crunch. Ever since I've been on the board, cash flow has been tight. I don't think we ever saw that cash flow is really,
It has been tight.
it's been tight all along.
Yes.
But I think maybe a little tighter.
Yes. Yes, right, yes.
Are there further questions? Seeing none, well, thank you very much.
Right.
I move the report be received and placed on file. Second.
Moved by Mr. Betts, second by Mr. Quisenberry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Move on to our areas of responsibilities. Highway and transportation, Ms. Cowart.
Highway and transportation has 3 items. First one is adoption of resolution number 7819, awarding of contract for the placement of a concrete box culvert located in the Hensley Road District, section number 10-12967-00-BR.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Benzel. Discussion. Ms. Bergson.
I understood these were culverts under bridge, now I see that these are concrete box culverts again.
Mr. Blue, you want to come up and explain that? You can sit here if you want to, or stand at the microphone.
These are concrete box culverts, those are those big square things?
We're replacing concrete box culverts with actual bridges for both of these projects. We're taking out an old concrete box culvert because it can't handle the water flow and the roads are flooding. We're putting in bridges instead of the concrete box culverts.
And then where does the water go?
Underneath the road, hopefully, instead of over it. That's the idea. Both these ditches in Hensley Township have had increased water flow over the years. These box culverts have been in there for 40 or 50 years. They can't handle the flow, so the bridges actually open up the waterway so that the water can go underneath the road instead of flooding and going over the top of the road. So the bridges are much bigger than the old concrete box culverts that we're taking out. So hydraulically, they can handle the water.
Any other questions? Mr. Ellis.
Just a couple, Jeff. On the start bid, which I guess is the start getting a little bit of both projects, on the section 12967 bid, the $119,126.
Yep.
I'm sorry, it was actually on the other one. It was on the $121,826. Could you talk to me about the furnished excavation number? Do we know that?
When you're out of order, we're not on that item yet. We're on the first bridge. Can you talk about the second bridge?
I apologize. I'm talking about
121,826. That's resolution 7820. We're on 7819.
You are correct. Okay, I'll ask this question now, though, since I got the floor. I noticed on this bid and on the other bid as well, the estimates on removal of existing structures were all over the map.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to explain too much because the winning bid in both cases beat the engineer's estimate, but do we have any idea what the basis for that variation was? Do we need to do a better job?
No, it's
getting the specs out for that, or?
Here's the deal on that. It depends on where the contractor wants to put his money. The first thing he's going to get paid for on this job is to remove the old bridge. So if he wants a whole bunch of money up front, he might put $50,000 on the removal of the structure and bid everything else real cheap. Or they might bid it at actually what it's going to cost them,
and get the money as the project progresses.
All right, I understand it's kind of a squishy thing to estimate as well, because it's a unit, it's basically a block cost by the engineer.
Right.
But you feel all the bids were responsive in terms of the numbers that we're seeing?
Oh, yeah, I mean, having 4 very good bids on both of these projects, we are very lucky in Champaign County. A lot of counties get 1, maybe 2 bids on projects like this.
Okay, thanks. I've got a question about the next one, which I'll ask in the appropriate time.
Thank you. Further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is the adoption of resolution number 7820, awarding a contract for the replacement of the concrete box culvert located in Hensley Road District, section number 1012973-00-BR. Nice of me.
Second. Second by Mr. J. Mr. Alex.
Mr. Blue, I had a question about this bid.
Really?
I did notice on the prevailing bid, the number for furnished excavation was very, very low. Same comment as before. You think that's responsive rather than an error on their part?
Yeah, they're just, they're bidding smart. I mean, that's an item that is only 30 cubic yards. You know, when you do the math for the dirt, it comes out that it appears as though you need 30 cubic yards to build the bridge. In reality, by the time they get done cleaning the channel and removing the old bridge, they'll probably have 30 yards laying around. So they won't get paid to bring any in, so they put a low bid on that because they know that that's probably not something they're going to ask to get paid for.
Okay, so furnished excavation is allowed to come from the site?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's borrow excavation basically
Yeah,
from the site?
furnished would mean it's trucked in. If they don't truck any dirt in, then they won't get paid for that, but they only bid $3 on the whole thing. So they're kind of playing a game because they believe the excavation, the dirt's actually going to be on the job and they won't have to truck it in.
Okay, thank you.
Understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I'm not 100% convinced they're going to be able to do that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It's typical that when you have a small quantity like that, they can just kind of dig around and scrape it together on the job.
Sure, all right.
Further questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The last item is adoption of resolution number 7824, awarding a contract for the roof replacement of the South Down, section number 11-00000-02GM.
Second by Ms. Homerfield. Discussion? Yes. Yes. Is there any discussion on this item? Mr. Quisenberg.
What is the length of the warranty on the shingles on this?
The shingles are 30-year, that would be good, they're 30-year shingles.
And in your experience, how long do 30-year shingles last?
A lot less than 30 years. It is, you know, it looks like a big number, and it is a big number, but it's 13,000 square feet of roof. That's a gigantic roof up there. And it's not like you can just climb up there and put that roof on. I mean, you're going to have to put scaffolding up and do some special things to be able to tear off the old roof and put a new roof on. So it's a very unique project.
Further questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
There's nothing else from highway and transportation for the board.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Environmental Land Use, Mr. Kurtz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one item, B1, adoption of resolution number 7821, authorizing the application for a public transportation capital assistance grant under the Illinois Department of Transportation General Authority, and then such a grant, and I so move.
Second. Second by Mr. Langenheim. Discussion. We have a representative from Chris here if you have detailed questions. No. Well, seeing there's no questions, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Kurtz, Finance, Mr. McGinty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recommend adoption of resolution number 7825, purchases not following purchasing policy, and I so move.
Second by Mr. J. Oh, sorry, Mr. Moser. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I recommend adoption of resolution number 7826, payment of claims authorization, and I so move.
Second by Mr. Kurtz. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I recommend adoption of resolution number 7827 from the Mental Health Board for $383,040 to allow for expenditures relative to carryover funds from the Access Initiative federal funds in year one of the project, and I so move.
Second by Ms. Toler. Discussion. Seeing none, roll call.
Jay,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Langenheim, Maxwell,
Yes.
McGinty,
Yes.
Michaels,
No.
Mosier,
No.
Nudo,
Yes.
Petrie,
Yes.
Quisenberry,
Yes.
Richards,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Benzel,
Yes.
Bergson,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Holderfield,
Yes.
James,
No.
Weibel,
Yes. Motion carries.
I'd like to make an omnibus motion of items 4 and 5. First, an adoption of resolution number 7832, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for the School Resource Officer Program with the St. Joseph, Fisher, and Prairie View Ogden School Districts, and an adoption of resolution number 7833, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for the School Resource Officer Program with the Tolono Community School District number 7, and I so move.
Second by Mr. Jones, who wins the contest. Discussion on either of these resolutions. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 6, I recommend adoption of resolution number 7835, amending the schedule of authorized positions for the IT department, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Ms. Holderfield. Discussion. Ms. Emmons.
I just have one question on the resolution, talks about replacing the web analyst for this position. Would this position pick up the duties the web analyst did?
The web analyst responsibilities that are currently done would, part of them might be done by this position, but they would also probably be absorbed by more than one of the staff members, depending on what the request is.
That's the maintaining.
It'll be for maintenance, right, and changes that are requested, yes.
Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all from finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGinty. Policy Personnel Appointments, Ms. Emmons. Ms. Emmons, may I suggest we go to the item that's pulled from consent first? Just to get that out of the way. Item C1. Sorry, no, item 10, D10.
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 Adoption of resolution, should we just read the resolution over again? Because it's your appointment.
No, the body has it, so you can do that.
Adoption of resolution number 7846, appointing Robert Baker to the Fountain Drainage District. Policy moves that for discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schrader. Discussion. Ms. Petrie.
Yes, I'd like to take a moment to explain why I asked for this to be pulled from the consensus agenda. I recently became aware that there was more than one applicant for this appointment to this drainage district. I'm quite acquainted with this drainage district because, as many know, I've been working very hard on the John Street watershed's stormwater management and the flooding issues, and along with working on that, I've been working on East Washington and West Washington. West Washington and the Fountainhead Drainage District are basically interlocked, and the application from the gentleman who spoke during public participation is a resident who does live in the West Washington area, and there is no representation on that drainage district for anybody from the urban area that is included in that drainage district. And since that area is working very hard to solve their flooding problems, it seems to be quite appropriate to appoint somebody to the drainage district that is very well acquainted with those issues and therefore would be in a position to work and collaborate with the drainage district on solving of those problems. So this is a wonderful occasion for the county actually to act in a very positive way on an urban issue. Thank you.
Mr. Moser.
I wouldn't think a drainage ditch has got a whole lot to do with a flooding problem in a subdivision. That's more of a township problem. Their problem is to maintain the ditch. And I don't know how many acres of that district's still in agriculture, but it's big. And you've got a sanitary plant putting water in there. I just don't know what three commissioners can do about something like that when you've got a limited amount of money coming in there and you're trying to maintain, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles of open ditch.
Mr. Niddle.
I would just ask the chair why he selected Mr. Barker, because usually we honor the chair's decision.
Well, at the time, Mr. Barker was the only person to apply. He applied and he was on the board previously, and this nomination came in 3 days ago, past the time period. Obviously, I nominated the person at the last council meeting, so that's my nomination. I cannot withdraw the nomination, I believe, because it's up to the body to decide now. And so, the only way to consider Mr. Huston is if that you would decline this nomination here, which can potentially allow me to consider another candidate. I also might add this district is a large drainage district. It roughly runs from somewhere west of Prospect Avenue to Bonneville, roughly, east-west, so it's pretty large. I've tried to contact officials from the city of Champaign, just get an idea of what sort of relationship there is, what exists, and I'm not able to get back. They've not contacted me back, so I can't comment on that. Mr. Langman. Microphone, please.
Yeah. Where is it with regard to marinal and intermarinal topography? The stuff out towards Bonneville is in the flats.
It's pretty much in the flats.
All of it is in the
pretty much, yes.
in the pretty much the lake bed.
I think so. I should also say the levy is about $20 per household in Champaign. And I think farmers own large agricultural land. I think it's a couple bucks per acre or something like that. Mr. Richards.
I don't necessarily want to kill this nomination, but I think some important issues have come up with this that the body should look at. What would be the effect of sending this back to committee?
I think that it would defer it. They would defer it until next month. We can talk more about it. But again, I've already made my nomination.
So you're saying to keep this open, this motion open, we have to kill this tonight and bring it up again?
Correct. Mr. J.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd hope that we'd think very carefully before we kill this. Having been involved in drainage ditches all my life, a drainage ditch is separate from a flooding issue that municipalities have. It is important and very vital that the folks serving on those drainage ditches understand the drainage ditch portion of it. Anybody can take water. It's what you do with the water when you get it and how you maintain those ditches. And those ditches obviously is vital not only to those folks and those watersheds that drain into it, but to the agriculture community that it runs through. I think it's really important to keep people on that ditch, as a ditch commissioner, that understand and know the problems of that particular drainage ditch, and I would hope they would support your nomination.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Just two questions to make sure I have things right here. Was Robert Barker previously sitting on this?
Yes.
So he's a renewal, basically.
He's an existing.
And then you said that the application for the person in town came after the cow meeting?
It arrived in my office on the 15th, I saw it on the 16th. Today's the 18th.
All right, well, then I'd be inclined to go ahead and support this because it's a reappointment of an existing person and the other application came in late.
Mr. Moser, you have a comment?
I don't know what you can do in a situation like that, other than what we did with this ditch out here east of Urbana. The city agreed to take it over. It was all pretty much urban. And they took over the maintenance on that ditch. When you get into a situation where you're dumping a lot of water in at the head, and this is what's going on out there, it puts a burden on everything else downstream. The capacity of that whole ditch was designed for agriculture only. At some point, you're going to have more retention up above or expand the capacity of that thing to handle more water. And I know from being a commissioner on this one out here where all the water from the nursing home, or part of the water goes from the nursing home here southeast of Urbana, it was a perpetual problem trying, as an agricultural interest in that, to explain to the city or any of the residents in Scottswood why they couldn't get rid of their water. And it was never intended to handle what came down through there. And we did, my father was a commissioner on that ditch when they put that sub in to try to alleviate that problem in southeast Urbana. It's been alleviated, but it took a lot of money and a lot of time to get it done. And the Barker family owns a significant amount of farmland in that drainage district. And I know from previous experience from Bob and his father both, they put a lot of time in maintaining that ditch, and it's a tough call when you got subdivisions that are supposed to have retention that's not capable of holding that water back, or you've got flooding problems. It seems to me that's more the township's problem or the city, if it's ever annexed into the city. I don't know how far out that's been annexed. I don't think somebody that lives in a subdivision has any understanding of how farm drainage systems work without a lot of education. It's not an easy job when you got to go out and look at a broken tile line and decide whether you're going to fix it. They maintain all those tile outlets. If those are in need of repair, they'll get fixed. But we've had a problem out there at St. Joe the same way. It just causes a lot of friction that shouldn't exist, but it does.
Ms. Evans.
I just wanted to clarify the appointment that we already have on consent was in a period of time that appointment was open. The one you just received, you received a few days ago.
2 days. Came my office 3 days ago, I saw it 2 days ago.
Okay. Which is beyond a period of time. Of course, we've had the cow for this already. I'm inclined to support it. Possibly there may be some issue in the time frame that we can correct so people are notified about these things, or in those districts, or on the website clearly demarcating the ending period for this process. But I would not be inclined to send this back to committee if the gentleman submitted his paperwork in the appropriate time.
Ms. Petrie.
Just several points of clarification. I asked if there had been a time framework or a deadline. There was none posted on the website.
Actually, clarify, I'm not sure because the posting was taken down. I can't say that.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that.
So there may have been not, but I'm not sure.
Okay, we're not clear on that one. And then second, this isn't a subdivision. This is a a well-established area of West Champaign that's been in existence a very long time. And as I said, I've worked on these flooding issues for a long time, and it seems since there is an interrelationship between the drainage in an urban area into a farm area, it is not unreasonable to think that there is an urban representation on a drainage district.
Mr. Alex?
A couple of points. I appreciate Ms. Petrie's sentiment. I mean, I think when you have drainage districts that do involve both rural and urban areas in the same district, whether deliberately or by historical accident, I think it certainly is appropriate that urban residents be allowed to be represented on those drainage districts. In a particular case of the Fountainhead District, this is significant for residents in Champaign who are members of this district, because the Fountainhead Drainage District has a long-standing litigation with the Sanitary District with regard to their drainage levy that could actually impact the rates that people living in the Sanitary District pay for sanitary service. So, to the extent that these bodies are supposed to be, representational of all residents in their, or all landowners in their districts, I do think it would be appropriate if we had, people from all areas of these districts applying for these seats. Unfortunately, I respect this, what I've seemed to be hearing, which is that, the gentleman applied after the deadline, whereas the person who you appointed applied properly. So I will support the nomination, but I would certainly hope that we can encourage this gentleman or others who are in this district to apply when there are vacancies in the future.
Slide microphone.
Consideration should be given to the argument that the drainage district is originally started as a group of farmers got together, put in tiles, drained their land, formed a drainage district, taxed themselves for that particular purpose. Now, not all of the farmland in this county is inside of drainage districts. Not all of the land in the county is in agriculture. In Urbana, the city of Urbana annexed almost all, or probably has all, by now, annexed all of the drainage district that took care of the boneyard. I was in that district, and I was there when it was turned over to the city. I think it is appropriate that the city problems should be borne by the city, and that the area that is fully urbanized should be subtracted from the drainage district, and the cost of draining it be absorbed by the municipality as a whole. That the people that are in that drainage district, in the city, are responsible for supporting a one-purpose agricultural organization is perhaps, without representation, is, to me, a little bit unjust. The people that are paying taxes in that district should be represented on the district board. So the people that are actually in the urbanized portion of that district should have representation on that board. This doesn't have much to do with whether or not I'm going to vote or yay or nay on this particular argument, but I think it should be understood that drainage districts were set up for a very narrowly defined purpose, and there are now much broader responsibilities on lands draining into the Gulf of Mexico, for that matter. So perhaps we should be thinking about revising drainage districts, maybe perhaps have them organized on drainage basins, and tax them differently for urban and for rural purposes.
I'll point out that we don't have that authority.
I know that. I realize that, but we're all citizens, and we can pass resolutions.
Mr. James.
Well, Ralph said, I agree. I think anybody should have an opportunity to apply and put their name forth, and if they have the qualifications, then the chairperson has a right to review that, make a selection. But in my book, if you can't get off your duff and get in time and get the work done, then it's your fault. Let's move on.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Right on, Mr. James.
Thank you. Item D1, Policy, Personnel, and Appointments, adoption of resolution number 7875 in support of an integrated network of Midwest high-speed trains. So moved.
Second by Mr. Carter. Discussion.
Chairman.
Mr. Maxwell.
The county administrator passed out a proposed amendment to Resolution 7875. And generally, I'm supportive of the concept of high-speed rail. But given the current state of our economy, our heavy national debt burden, and the deteriorating condition of our interstate highway and other surface transportation systems, I don't believe that now is the time to ask Congress for a new governmental program. I am also concerned about the cross-track accessibility problems the new system might create. Therefore, I make the following motion to amend Resolution 7875 as follows. That the now therefore be it resolved be changed and added to as follows. Now therefore be it resolved that the Champaign County Board fully supports an integrated network of high-speed trains as the key to economic development, job creation, and increased fuel efficiency, provided said network is constructed and operated in a manner that minimizes the impact on the agricultural industry, emergency service providers, and other vital commercial and community interests of Champaign County. And that the first, be it further resolved, be changed as follows. Be it further resolved that the Champaign County Board calls on Congress to create a regulatory environment that encourages and promotes full funding of the high-speed rail network by the private sector. And finally, that the last be it further resolved be changed as follows. Be it further resolved that the Champaign County Board calls on Congress to include a program that facilitates the development of an integrated network of high-speed trains by the private sector in the upcoming transportation authorization.
Second.
Second by Mr. James. Discussion on the amendment. Mr. Quisberg.
Yeah, I guess I appreciate some of the sentiment behind this resolution, but I don't believe, I'm reading through parts of the amendment, and I think it's trying to address two different concerns, and I'd rather see those addressed one at a time rather than together. And I'd also say that the language here that with regard to minimizes the impact on these items, that language kind of bothers me because I'm kind of hoping that if we have high-speed rail, that it'll have an impact on commercial and community interests in a positive way. This assumes that all of those impacts will be negative. So I don't think the language is quite right here, and I don't think I would want to vote on this together. I'd rather vote on these items singly.
Mr. Carter? Yeah. What's the cost to the county?
This is there's no cost to the county. This is a symbolic resolution.
Sam, what you mean symbolic when we need some jobs?
Well,
and this is one way of creating jobs. And to me, this is a national job, not local. So why are we putting out? You know, we need some jobs.
Well, I agree, Mr. Carter.
That would create jobs. So I don't know why we have any form of not letting this go through.
Mr. Richards.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd like to welcome Mr. Maxwell to the board. However, I would urge everyone to vote down this amendment. We've specifically tried to stay away from getting into a flame war on the size and scope of the federal government with this resolution and stick to the benefits to Champaign County. Different people have different ideas on how this should go. We've heard Champaign County First wants to see a public-private partnership. They are supporting this resolution. The new state study is going to look at feasibilities of public-private partnerships versus the state building it, and so that's something that's very much on the table, and who knows what they're going to come up with. So I urge this body to reject this amendment and stick to looking at the advantages of of what this would be for Champaign County and East Central Illinois. And I think we do that pretty well to sticking to that in the current resolution.
Mr. Curtis.
Thank you. I'm looking at the second paragraph resolution, and in both paragraphs state private sector, private sector. I don't see the private sector jumping on board to take on the full responsibility of high-speed rail. This is a national program, not a private sector program. It's a combination of corporations and government working on, like the highways system was a private and public cooperation. This certainly should be, and I would vote to reject this motion.
Mr. Moser.
If we run high-speed rail like we do Amtrak, it's going to be a losing proposition from day one. I'm not going to support the amendment or the original proposal, either one, because there's 130 miles between here and Chicago that's agriculture other than Kankakee. And I don't know how many rail crossings are going to get closed in that 130 miles to get a train down here from Chicago. And that, to me, is a real problem for our business, because we have to cross that Canadian national line day after day, and you're either going to have to put the thing up in the air 16 feet, or you're going to have to put a viaduct over the top of it, because that's how tall farm equipment is, and it's wide, and it just preposterous to me to think that's going to ever be a big economic boom to central Illinois.
Mr. Langenheim.
If we want to consider the local problems with regard to rail crossings, the bullet trains, the 200-mile-an-hour train, is placed on pillars. It's not a ground level train. It shouldn't affect agricultural crossings in any way whatsoever. And looking to the 90 to 110 mile an hour train, that is not so much different from the speeds that were maintained between Kankakee and Centralia on the Illinois Central line when it was double track and had a lot more crossings than it has now. So I would suspect that if you put down another track on the ISE and do a little jiggling with the signals, you're not going to have any more of a problem with crossings than you have now.
Further discussion on the amendment. Ms. Ambrose.
I think certainly the idea really should have been for us to consider the idea, and I respect Mr. Moser's position. It's pretty clear. I think in the overall scope, though, we were hoping that this resolution would just send a message in support of the idea, and that the state government and the feds, who are really looking at this nationwide, would do the research and feasibility studies and all those things necessary. This is a long-term project, so this is not something we're kind of voting on for some money today or tomorrow, or even in a few years. It's going to take some time. But the idea we should certainly support because of the creation of economic viability for Champaign County as being the hub of this high-speed rail. And so I'll support the original resolution as opposed to the amended model based on private sector ownership of this advancements.
I just wanted to point out, I mean, I appreciate the sentiment of involving private investment in high-speed rail. I think high-speed rail, because realistically it'll have to be developed along existing freight corridors, is an area in which, as opposed to most of our other transportation networks like highways, airports, navigation, waterways, and so forth, which are almost entirely funded with public money, high-speed rail is sort of by definition something that is a public-private partnership, because typically you're using right-of-way and some facilities that come from privately operated railroads, as well as some public investment. So I guess I'm opposed to the resolution because it, implies that this should be something about high-speed rail should be entirely privately funded, whereas our other transportation networks should be largely publicly funded. I think they should be considered. I think the government should be able to consider high-speed rail as an equal partner in terms of deciding what the most efficient way to provide transportation is. But it is fortunate, I think, that any high-speed rail investment we're likely to see will in fact have to be a public and private partnership. And my other comment in terms of, this is maybe just information, in terms of the issue of road crossings, I have been told by a number of sort of experts in this area that the general approach for high-speed rail, where you do have it on the ground, is to follow a approach similar to what the Department of Transportation advises for interstate highways, which is essentially you close about 50% of the crossings and you convert the other 50% of the crossings into overpasses. One of the advantages to the fact that a high-speed rail line in Illinois would almost certainly use an existing freight corridor is that if you do get overpasses over the high-speed line, those are going to be overpasses over the freight rail as well. So to some extent, this offers an opportunity to eliminate a lot of grade crossings and improve safety overall.
Mr. Esri.
With respect to the grade crossings and what Mr. Alex just said, I don't see currently that there is a problem really and truly with crossings out there in the country. How does closing half of them solve an issue that isn't even an issue? Granted, if you go over them, yeah, or the train goes over the road, yeah, there is no interaction whatsoever. But it does mean first responders and agriculture and anybody else who lives in that area has to drive possibly 3-4 miles, however many miles out of their way, and that is a significant issue. In the overall scheme, the federal being broke, federal government being broke, the state government being broke, I don't see how we can sit here and ask potentially more taxpayer money to be spent on another program at this point in time. Get our fiscal houses, both the state, both the federal, in shape. We can look at this. That at this point in time, I'm not going to vote for it, either the amendment or the original resolution. We don't have the money, folks. It's not there. And that's the big reason I'm just not going to support it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, this is on the motion to amend. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails. We're back to the main motion. Discussion of the main motion.
We have a roll call.
Mr. James, roll call, send that one.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Brett does. Ms. Petrie, you have a comment?
I do have an amendment to the original resolution. Since this is a symbolic resolution, I move that the 6th whereas, which is very detailed, be removed from the resolution.
Second. Second by Mr. Quisenberg. Discussion on this amendment. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to the main motion that's been slightly amended. Discussion on this item. Line item.
Borrowing money for this is an investment. Any businessman, any government, anybody that moves a lot of money around in an exchange system borrows and pays back. This will pay us back. We can think back to paying off the costs of the Civil War in part with the railroad subsidies that built the Illinois Central Railroad, among others, and which brought back money to the government. I can remember my colleagues over in the Illinois State Geological Survey complaining mightily in the 1960s because they were still required to travel by train because they had a pass because the state of Illinois had built the railroad. The interstate system also. Money was borrowed to build that. The return on it has paid us back over and over again. So I see no objection to borrowing for this purpose. This is for a solid economic advance.
Mr. Schrader.
Just for clarification, Mr. Langenheim was not there. It may seem that way, but he was not there. Close, but he was not there for that. I just want to say that going back, this is symbolic. And I'm going to vote for it because it's a feasibility study, and it is symbolic, but realistically, this default state coming up with matching funds that the governor says is there, but it's in gambling money, it's not there, and it's going to be a laugh if it even shows up. So, but I'm still going to support it anyway. If it's feasibility, fine. It's probably going to take 40, 50 years. I won't be around if it's ever done. So, fine.
Mr. Little?
You know, this harkens back, we were talking in our caucus, this harkens back to me. You remember when we were talking about the stimulus and Cam came in here with a list of all of the shovel-ready projects, and not a one of them got used in the stimulus. Monies went to the state used it to pay Medicaid, catch up with bills, and now they're in the same problem. I can't vote for this. I think, as Aaron said, this is, we're in too much debt, and we need to get ourselves out of this morass that we're in. There's roads and there's bridges and there's things we need to do that take just as much precedence here, and I'm not going to support it. Thank you.
As long as we're wandering through history, I'm from LaSalle. And in the 1830s, LaSalle was bigger than Chicago. It was at the foot of the I&M Canal. And Chicago was, LaSalle through its weight in with the canals, which are still the cheapest way to transport goods. And Chicago went with the railroad, and the rest is history. The rest of the world is gone with high speed.
They were all private railroads. Ms. Holyfield, do you have a comment?
Thank you. I will not support this. I think it was interesting right after our last meeting, the news covered the state of California had opted to go with high-speed rail at $179 billion. Interestingly enough, that was 2.5 years ago. It's a boondoggle today, and they are $24.8 billion still short. So I realize that all of this is symbolic. We've got a symbolic resolution that says we're going to support high-speed rail. Yet I haven't seen any effective passage or implementation of high-speed rail, and I really believe that California is, a state that is, of course, ahead of its time, and Illinois is right behind them as far as deficits are concerned. So I will not support this.
Mr. Carter.
Yeah. Where have y'all been? I was a kid, we had trains, the Green Diamond, Miami, and New Orleans was running over 100 miles an hour right down these rails. What happened to that was your automobile. Your automobile came in and killed it. Now, if we want to get rid of these gas gobblers and create some jobs and come out of the 99 back century, come on, please. What are we thinking? We used to have to take us all a week to go from here to Chicago. Now you can go from here to across the world in 3-4 hours. Now you don't want the train. And I was thinking the same thing when I went to Korea in 1950. Do you know all I could see when I read my comic book was the Japanese man, they had the best looking train that you ever wanted to ride. I'm telling you. And all I knew was, man, wait, what's happening here? All I see was somebody was backing it, and this is the truth. And you go over there right now, they train to make a boo-boo out of us. It's good. If we gonna be the #1 nation, come on, y'all, we gotta do something.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll really try and be brief. We had it out in caucus. It's kind of hard to get through some of these thickheads here in the back row. You guys don't understand how hard it is at times. But having said that, I really am concerned. You know, here we are setting to do something symbolic, which I don't agree with to begin with. If you really mean it and want to do it, that's one thing, but just to send a symbolic message. If we're going to send a symbolic message to Washington, I can think of a lot better one to send than this. We don't know where this is going. We don't know what it's going to do. We don't know who's going to pay for it. We don't know anything about it. Mr. Mosier said it the very best. The devil's in the details. And a lot of you want to compare it to the highways, the federal highway system. You can't compare this rail to a highway because a highway serves a lot of different venues. The railroad serves one. It's so Mr. Kurtz can get to Chicago quicker. Or was that what you said there, Al? But my point is, I don't know how we can sit here and do something that we don't have a clue. It's kind of like what happened when they crammed the health bill down us. We was all up in arms because, God, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know anything about it. And one of your representatives said, you got to pass it before you can read it and see what's in it. Well, we don't need to do that with this.
Mr. Betts.
I really want to stay out of this because everyone knows that I support high-speed rail. But when the issue of Los Angeles, I was raised in Los Angeles. And in the 1940s and 50s, there was a big push by many reasonable people to have high-speed rail in Los Angeles. The automobile companies did everything they could to block it, and they succeeded in blocking high-speed rail, which is why getting around Los Angeles is an absolute disaster. They don't have a good rail system, and they have the opportunity. Now it will cost trillions to do it. You now have 12 lanes in each direction because they don't have a rail system in that city. I think we should be forward-looking. Is the devil in the details? Absolutely. It is on every single issue we deal with as the county, the feds, and the state. But the devil was in the details on the interstate system, which people objected to wildly. They called Eisenhower a socialist because of the interstate system, along with Lyndon Johnson, who sponsored it in the Senate. Lyndon probably was a socialist, bless his heart. The health bill. I support the health bill. I do know what's in it. I think it's a good health bill, and I think it's very progressive. We would never have gone to the moon if we'd have said, well, we have to know exactly how we're getting there tomorrow. When Kennedy said we're going to the moon, they did not know exactly how they were going to get there. I have been to countries where they have high-speed rail. It is a real advantage economically in all of those countries. I personally don't expect to see it happen in my lifetime in this country, in this area. I think there are places on the East Coast where it might be more effective. But the idea of abandoning this idea strikes me as not a very open, progressive thing to do. We do need to move forward in this country on high-speed rail. Quite frankly, I'm a supporter of the space program, which we're killing right now. I think we do need to do that kind of thing. We do need to think bigger than our own backyard sometimes.
Mr. Richards.
What's the call for the question, Mr. Chair?
Sorry, you have the floor, Ms. Ammons. That's not interruptible. Mr. Richards.
Well, Mr. J may be right. This may end up not working, but the fact is that a vote for this is not a vote for a government boondoggle. The reason that we can talk about a public-private partnership being a possibility is because a number of high-speed rail systems are profitable. Many of them in Europe are profitable, privately run rail systems. And private investment just built one in South Africa. And there are a number of large foreign investors who would love to lay one of these down, just like they just bought the Chicago Skyway Tollway, because they think they're going to make money off of it. So this is not necessarily going to be the same structures in California, which has to go over a number of mountain ranges and is public. This has the possibility to be profitable, and if it ends up being a public-private partnership, it may not be a very heavy burden at all on the state and federal governments.
Ms. Ammons.
Call for the question.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye. Excuse me, point of information.
Aye.
Somebody asked for a roll call vote, and it was.
We're already roll call vote. Ms. Evans, point out that call the question is not, you cannot interrupt it, you have to be recognized by the chair. Roll call, please.
Jay?
Did you say James?
Jay.
No.
Jones?
Yes.
Kurtz?
I invite Mr. J to join me on our trip to Chicago if we live long enough, just so I can get him out of the country and into the city, let him see what it looks like. I vote yes.
Langenheim?
Yes.
Maxwell?
No.
McGinty? Michaels?
No.
Mosher?
No.
Nudo?
No.
Petrie?
Yes.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ammons?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benzel? Bergson?
Yes.
Betts?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Esri?
No.
Holderfield?
No.
James?
No.
Weibel?
Yes, motion carries. Is there any other business? Is there any new business? We're adjourned.